Alright, welcome back everybody. I'm gonna give it a couple seconds and alright. So I've been on today, a couple hours. Not a couple hours just now, but like this morning. I didn't want to do a stream because I wasn't gonna be doing anything particularly interesting and I needed to cut it short. But what I did do is upgraded my stack tier, got a second one, and then went mining for sand and sandstone. There is a conspicuously missing chunk of sand over here, a decent distance away, and I'll probably be chunking out more of it later. But as it stands, I don't think I'll be needing too much because I need to actually get to work on a construction project, which means flattening out land. Now, originally I said that the land over here was marked for civilians. You know, our glorious workers. But I'm actually going to need to check how large it is, because I might end up flattening it for the project. Side note, that backpack, I don't actually think that's enough. But it'll do for a start. Oh, right, I also finished eating all the foods, so that backpack is now sitting there, and I'll be relying on chorus juice. I brought back some materials for more. With the waystone in the end, it's not hard to do. Okay, so I need length and width. So let's do you. This is 870. I need about 200 blocks. It's definitely thinner this way than it is in width, so that'll be a good indication. Now we're at 100. 140, so that's not enough. I could extend the ocean. That is a lot of work. Is there anywhere else made of sand that's bigger nearby? What is this? It's grass. Actually, it doesn't need to be grass, does it? I think I should be more worried about being flat than it being sand, because I can just put sand in. So these are kind of far away. That's the better desert temple. That's also kind of far away. So I think this will probably be my best bet. Let's get numbers. Extending it by 60 would be a lot more of a nuisance than extending it by like 20. So I can get it reasonably sized here. Okay, we'll pretend this is 80. Yeah, that would require wiping out a whole section of this lake here still. I could kill the town. I mean, you know, honestly, filling out this lake doesn't sound like it'll be that bad, realistically. Oh, a lot of emeralds. What the hell? Okay, so I'm going to work on some tools for this. because I was using a bedrock shovel and a bedrock pickaxe, I'm going to make another bedrock shovel and pickaxe. And get those enchanted. So I need 7 obsidian. I've got them. And then I need rupee and 1 of the bedrock chunks that's already back here. Okay, and I need sticks and the books. Okay, any book that just has a ton of garbage on it. No. Oh, well, I'm supposed to get rid of lifesteal, so actually, yeah, I'll probably just do that one. And then, actually only need Rive on the shovel, don't I? Neat. I feel like exhaustion was turned up on this server. Anyway, why don't we have an anvil back here? Should have like 5 spare anvils. Really? I'll just make a couple. Oh, getting a message. Okay, what do I need for you? 12. We'll get 13. And then go in here. I need efficiency 5, don't need piercing, don't need knockback. I need fortune, and I need rise. That's 1. Because, yeah, I'll still be using you for things. Let me just make sure there's nothing else I actually cared about. Aftershock was damage. I mean, I could get Silk Touch, but no, I think that's good. Alright, what do you need? Neat. Alright. So if I'm eviscerating that landmass, started. occurs to me I should probably be doing this a block lower, actually. Velza, look out! I avenged Velza. Guys, a huge fan of the Riven chain. There's the giant pickaxe, thanks to the Twilight, but like this is way more convenient. Also, the lack of a penalty for aerial mining is super nice. I don't actually know where that's coming from. I think it's a server config thing. But there we go. Yeah, just place that there. Did you? Let's set this here. Sun Temple. Until I actually have the pyramid, that'll work. Oh, that's 3 more messages. Alright. I need my axe. I think I'm actually going to swap these bags. Oh. That's the wrong slot. Just because I'm going to be placing a bunch of crap in there. It's going to get annoying. Not mean to do that. Okay. Put you in here for now. You keep you out. Okay. Oh, is this whole thing a block up? Ah, crap.
to throw on something to listen to.
Since it doesn't look like there's much to do with regards to the call. No one else is in voice chat. This world shall be crab. What? No. No, we hate crabs. Screw the crabs. Dark matter, 25. The untold reality of political violence. Sure.
On June 14, 2025, immediately after a right-wing extremist assassinated politicians essential to the Democrats, thereby giving control of the Minnesota legislature to Republicans, Elon Musk retweeted false information and said, quote, "The far left is murderously violent." 3 days later, Musk's AI Grok was asked, quote, "Since 2016, has the left or right been more violent?" And Grok correctly answered that data suggests right-wing political violence has been more frequent and violent. But Musk replied, quote, "Major fail, as this is objectively false. Grok is parroting legacy media working on it." Elon Musk fails to perceive the truth when he sees it because he is ideologically captured by a persistently pushed narrative. And the same may be true of you if you also believe that the left has been more violent recently. Now, here's what's really amazing. Not only is the left currently significantly less violent than the right, which I know will be hard for some of you to believe, but Elon Musk alone has caused more damage to people than the entirety of the left combined. And I'm talking about both physical and financial harm caused in the last decade. Given that context, his statements go from factually incorrect to outright absurdly ironic. But I don't expect you to just blindly believe me, so I'm going to show you what I mean. First and foremost, let's address the nature of that narrative I was talking about, the narrative that misleads so many people into believing incorrect things about political violence. You see, the right and the left are attracted to and convinced by very different kinds of rhetoric. This causes an imbalance in the discourse that gives rise to misconceptions. Right-wingers are more attracted to anecdotes than statistics. There could be many different reasons for that, but one I suspect is that the right tends to have less trust in institutions, and in order to even have access to large data sets, the involvement of institutions is necessary. So they're left with a less reliable way of gaining information about the world, things like individual statements and video of specific incidents. Oddly, however, some right-wingers seem to magically suddenly trust a statistic in cases where it seems to support their position. Make of that what you will. Usually, though, rather than look at statistics, a right-winger will see individual acts of violence in videos and then extrapolate that behavior onto an entire group of millions of people, like the political left, for instance. Right-wing influencers take advantage of that cognitive vulnerability. A great way to brainwash people into believing the opposite of the truth is with a persistent narrative established through repetition. It's the same reason people are supposed to regularly attend church. The ability to dishonestly push a narrative that attempts to associate millions of innocent people with a few violent people is why they are so good at shaping and maintaining false perceptions in the minds of so many people. Leftism is at a clear disadvantage here because by their very nature, they do not value that tactic for the very reason that leftists are more likely to champion causes against bigotry, while right-wingers are more likely to embrace bigotry. Yes, I realize the irony of me telling you that right now, and deny it all you want. But consider their concerns. They champion anti-immigration causes, exclusionary policies, anti-LGBT legislation, white supremacist ideology, national isolationism, religious fundamentalism, etc. The right is about excluding and homogeneity, while the left is about including and diversity. The result is that right-wing politicians, influencers, and media outlets will hyper-focus on acts of political violence by the left, while completely ignoring or burying all the many acts of political violence by the right, with the specific goal of making the left look more violent. Meanwhile, the left typically does not engage in that same tactic because they don't value anecdotes and they don't draw sweeping conclusions based on the actions of a few. This means that there's an imbalance in the rhetoric that many right-wingers mistake for an imbalance in the violence. The truth is that not only does the data show that right-wing violence is more frequent and more deadly, but you can also find many more anecdotes of right-wing political violence. I'll show you some of the more egregious ones you never hear about. But first, what if an event is too big to be ignored or buried, and it goes against the right-wing narrative about violence? In response to such an event, right-wing politicians, influencers, and media outlets will just simply, shamelessly lie about it. They will muddy the waters and generate enough doubt, confusion, and debate to cause fatigue and eventually even abandonment of the topic itself. This is part of the tactic Steve Bannon called flooding the zone with shit. Think of all the lies that were immediately spread about the January 6th storming of the Capitol, for instance. I already went over a lot of those in my video called The Narrative versus the Truth, so I won't do it again here, even though much more could be said about it. More recently, though, the right-wing media machine had to do damage control to protect its narrative from the fact that a far-right extremist assassin went on a shooting spree, killing a prominent Democrat politician and her husband, and shot and wounded another Democrat politician and his wife. Those two survived, fortunately, but not for lack of trying to kill them. He shot one of them 9 times and the other 8 times in front of their daughter. 4 Democrats shot, nobody else. Republican politicians, far-right influencers, and media outlets immediately spread falsehoods, claiming that this assassin of Democrats was an obvious Democrat himself. And here's the thing. Millions of people seemed to either believe them or at least be persuaded enough to say that they don't know either way. So, who really was this assassin and what really motivated him? Before I get into that, let me just say that after a killer shoots a bunch of people, immediately hunting for the killer's political ideology so that we can play the blame game doesn't sit well with me. It's more useful to learn what we can about it through prevention methods rather than blame game She is a Democrat. The police recovered a notebook from the car that included a list of 45 elected officials he planned to kill, all Democrats, including Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar. He also plotted to kill various doctors at Planned Parenthood locations. He was an evangelical preacher who gave anti-LGBT sermons. Here's an example of him doing that. The killer's lifelong friend identified him to the police after receiving incriminating text messages from him. According to that same friend, the killer was very anti-abortion, was a Donald Trump supporter, liked the Alex Jones show, and said he would be very insulted about all these people calling him a Democrat.
He would be offended if people called him a Democrat.
And David Carlson, once again, his roommate and best friend, known him since fourth grade, did say Bolter voted for Trump and that he was a strong supporter.
Beyond his friend, though, does any official record indicate who he voted for? Well, the Minnesota DFL party released data showing that he voted in last year's presidential primary election, but not as a Democrat. The Republican Party of Minnesota knows if he voted as a Republican, but they declined to share their data on him because they said they consider that data to be private. Given these facts, his political ideology and motive seem fairly obvious to me. So how were right-wing influencers able to convince millions of people that this killer of Democrats was himself a Democrat? Well, through three misleading arguments. Argument number one, he shot the only Democrats who broke party lines to vote with Republicans for a bill that would deny medical benefits to illegal aliens. What are the facts? Only one of the Democrats he shot voted with Republicans, Melissa Hortman. The other Democrat legislator he shot, John Hoffman, voted against the Republicans, so that motive would not be consistent. The details of their votes are also something to consider. Melissa Hortman negotiated with the Republicans by agreeing to disallow undocumented adults from receiving medical benefits if undocumented children could continue to receive medical benefits. So not so cut and dry. She still successfully fought for illegal immigrants, or undocumented immigrants, whichever you want to call them. Once agreed, she cast her vote to prevent a government shutdown over the issue. She did not want to do it and expressed as much in an interview. She's been one of the most successful Democrats at getting progressive legislation passed. All of those facts make it seem very unlikely to be a motive for the killer and cannot be a motive for shooting John Hoffman, who voted against the Republicans. Not only that, but the legislature in Minnesota was split evenly, so killing Democrats would give the Republicans an advantage to pass even more bills that would be disagreeable to a Democrat or a leftist. If you're against Republicans, then it obviously would not make sense to kill Democrats in such a narrow legislature. But that's where we're at now. The Republicans now have an advantage because Democrats were assassinated. And we are expected to believe that it was a leftist who did that. Did the Democrats who were shot have a common denominator that could be a reason for targeting them? Yes, they were both very outspoken supporters of abortion rights. They were instrumental in passing legislation securing abortion rights in Minnesota after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, and their killer was vehemently anti-abortion and planned to target abortion providers as well. That is a motive consistent across all the people targeted. Argument number two, the killer was appointed to a government position by Tim Walz, the Democrat governor of Minnesota, so the killer can't possibly be a Republican. What are the facts? his already existing appointment to the Governor's Workforce Development Board, which is an apolitical, nonpartisan, nothing-burger community committee that currently has Republicans on it. There are many open positions on such boards which you can get simply by volunteering, and they do not bother with your political affiliation. A spokesperson for the governor said that the governor doesn't even interview applicants to such boards. It's likely that the killer never even met Tim Walz, and that all Tim Walz did was sign a form letter, just like he did for all the other members. So that seems like an extremely weak reason to call him a Democrat, especially in light of all the other members. If I may speculate on that beyond the facts, I suspect that it's projection, and the people who make such arguments cannot imagine themselves working with the opposing party, even though Tim Walz constantly does exactly that. It stems from difficulty imagining people thinking differently than yourself, a lack of empathy. I suspect it's projection because it was actually Donald Trump who wanted party loyalty tests for hiring new government employees. Regardless, it wasn't even a government employee position. It was strictly an unpaid, voluntary community board with Republicans currently on it. So again, very weak, yet there were influencers who used it to actually call the killer a good friend of Tim Walz, a man he likely never met, and a man who was literally on his kill list. That's how egregiously these influencers will lie to you. The third and final argument I've seen is that there were pieces of paper with no kings written on them found in the fake police car he used while committing murders. You see, he disguised himself as a policeman when he did the killings and wore a rubber mask to hide his face. So he was actively taking steps to hide his identity and present himself as something he was not. No Kings was what the nationwide protests were called that day. Why did he have a bunch of papers with those words written on them? For that, we currently have no facts to turn to, so we can only speculate.
Can I get
In light of all
3
the
more
other
Discord
evidence
messages?
against him, is it enough to call him a Democrat? Not even close. So what were they doing there? Well, there could be many different reasons. One reason could be that he planned to use them as calling cards so that far-right people would do exactly what they're doing now and use them as evidence that he was a Democrat, leftist, or a No Kings protester. The guy took steps to disguise himself and obviously did not intend to be caught for us to know his real history. Since he was willing to disguise himself as a policeman while doing the crimes, why wouldn't he also disguise himself after the crimes were done, like a No Kings protester? If that's true, then all these far-right influencers are doing exactly what this murderer wanted them to do. It's just crazy that it still worked even though he was caught and we know his far-right extremist history. Another reason could be that someone left a stack of those papers out for the protesters to use, and he simply stole them because he doesn't like them. I've seen people take entire stacks of political flyers and steal political signs for that very reason. I even got one on video. Take a look. Here's dash cam footage I personally took of someone I saw angrily kicking down a Hillary Clinton sign back in 2016. He then removed the sign and put it in the back of his pickup truck. Can you imagine if he then killed a bunch of people while having that Hillary Clinton sign in his truck? Would it prove that he was a Hillary supporter? Of course not. He was precisely the opposite. Would people use it to claim he was a Clinton supporter? Of course they would. It could be the same situation for this killer of Democrats. So, those are the 3 arguments that convinced millions of people that prominent Democrat politicians were assassinated by a Democrat. I don't believe that all, or maybe even most, of the people who made those ridiculous arguments actually believe in them. It's all about pushing that narrative, protecting that narrative. The New York Post Post was quick to create this extremely misleading headline, which no longer exists, by the way, and it no doubt helped give the influencers their talking points, including Trump himself, who referred to the killer as a Walls appointee. They know what they're doing. What's disturbing is that large influencers with millions of followers and even far-right politicians like Republican Senator Mike Lee, who made these despicable tweets he has since deleted, and even Elon Musk himself with his garbage tweets, are now actively participating in protecting the narrative that leftists are violent by pushing the lie that this killer of Democrats was himself a Democrat. You can see the lies in support of the narrative being repeated by accounts all across the internet, in tweets, Facebook posts, YouTube videos, comment sections of news articles, etc. And I'm sure many of those comments are real. But I also suspect that many of them are bot accounts used to create an illusion of
No longer suspicion. We know that's a fact.
vested interest in pushing certain narratives.
If not necessarily bots, then people being paid to do it. In
At hashtag dollar message dollar. You thought.
Is there...
Everywhere now, deployed by governments.
You want to be invited to my wedding, right?
Alike, so beware.
That does mean you need to be my friend.
Infuriating phenomenon is when people who share the beliefs of the killer blame the victims for being killed. For example, I saw this Fox News article titled "Ex-Vikings player blames Tim Walz for Minnesota lawmaker killings. Example of a weak, emasculated leader." The article says that the ex-Viking player believes the assassination was the result of Democrats and Walz's leadership. The main absurdity of this goofy article is that it even exists.
How dare you?
In the first place. Nobody would know
Yeah.
or care about this guy's political beliefs if it weren't for his football career. Yet because Fox News has
What armors are you using, RN?
to address him.
So this is Realmite. It's like Diamond Plus with fall damage immunity built in.
Restoring fatherhood, protecting women, protecting families. Tim Walz is the example of a weak, emasculated leader. That is not what God made fathers to be. It's pathetic. Unquote. He actually chose to say that after Democrats were murdered by this guy.
I'm excited about God! Je suis excité de Dieu! I want to worship Him!
I mind so much of that.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of it in our chests now. We can stock the entire server with Realmite armor at this point.
Gave a giant platform to use to blame the Democrats for being murdered by a guy who agrees with the far right. It's their own fault for being murdered. That's what we're being told now. We're being told that the people who were killed, the people who fought tooth and nail, so that at least undocumented children could still get medical benefits, are the ones who aren't protecting families. That's how egregious the propaganda is. A perfect inversion of reality. The people who talk about protecting families gleefully post, "I voted for that," when they see families torn apart and deported. I highly doubt I need to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Compare the immediate reaction right-wing influencers had when Democrat lawmakers were assassinated to the immediate reaction they had after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Without knowing anything, they immediately accused the would-be assassin of either being a Democrat, a far leftist, or both, and that he was obviously inspired by vitriolic rhetoric used against Donald Trump. Back when their politician was shot at, the motive wasn't even questioned. It was obvious that even when there were still zero details, there's always a double standard. If leftist or Democrat influencers said, no, the assassin was actually a Republican, then they would have called those influencers absolutely insane. Because that's pretty much what happened. It was discovered that the guy was actually a registered Republican. But that info was completely ignored or disbelieved by many right-wingers because he also happened to make a $15 donation when he was 17 years old through Act Blue to the Progressive Turnout Project. Either way,
That was not him. That was a guy with the same name.
about his political views, that he had been planning an attack for over a year, researching various events, but then settled on the Trump rally shortly after it was announced. So they think it was a target of opportunity. At least in that case, I can understand why a right-winger would assume that a guy who tried to assassinate Trump is on the political left. That is at least consistent. It makes sense. Despite contradictory evidence, it became a guilt by association campaign. Everyone understood that was going to happen no matter what. And to this day, right-wingers point the finger, saying, you guys tried to kill Trump, even after everything we learned about the assassin. What I learned about the assassin of Democrats, however, is that sadly, regardless of who is killed or who does the killing, and no matter how strong the evidence, right-wing influencers will always immediately flood social media with claims that it was a leftist or a Democrat or a transgender person or insert political enemy, even when they know very little, and even when it's the Democrats who are targeted. That's because it's important for the maintenance of their narrative to do so. Truth be damned, that narrative being that only Democrats and leftists do political violence. That narrative works very well, specifically because of the imbalance in the rhetoric I mentioned earlier. How well would that narrative work, however, if leftists engaged in the same tactic? What you won't typically find in the current leftist rhetoric is constant reminders of the recent violence committed by right-wingers, so it's very easy to just memory hole them. If you're a conservative, you can probably list acts of violence by people you consider leftists right off the top of your head. You'll think of LA riots, Tesla vandalism, a transgender mass shooter, the attempted assassinations of Donald Trump or Steve Scalise. And you'll think of them even if you know nothing of their political affiliations. But how often have you seen references to recent acts of right-wing violence? Like the Jacksonville Dollar General shooting, 3 killed by a white supremacist. The Allen, Texas outlet mall shooting, 7 wounded, 8 killed by a neo-Nazi white supremacist. The Buffalo supermarket shooting, 3 wounded, 10 killed by a white supremacist. The Boogaloo murders of Oakland and Santa Cruz, 3 wounded, 2 killed. The El Paso Walmart shooting, 26 wounded, 22 killed by an anti-immigrant white nationalist. The Poway synagogue shooting, 3 wounded, 1 killed by an anti-Semitic racist.
Wow,
The Jeffersontown Kroger shooting, 2 killed
fantastic
by an
turnout from
racist. The murder of Robert Miller, a black man burned by a white supremacist. The Pittsburgh synagogue shooting, 7 wounded, 11 killed by a white supremacist anti-Semite. The murder of Blaze Bernstein, killed for being gay. The murder of Michonne Cooper Williams, a black woman stabbed to death by a white supremacist. The murders of Danny and Deanna Lorenzo, killed by neo-Nazis. The murder of Richard Collins III, who was stabbed to death by a neo-Nazi. The car ramming attack at the Unite the Right rally, 28 wounded, 1 killed by a neo-Nazi white supremacist. The Portland train attack, 1 wounded, 2 killed by a neo-Nazi white nationalist. The murder of Timothy Kaufman, stabbed to death by an anti-black racist. The train wreck movie shooting, 9 wounded, 2 killed by a neo-Nazi white supremacist. The Colorado Springs Planned Parenthood shooting, 9 wounded, 3 killed by an anti-abortion Christian extremist. The Charleston church shooting, 1 wounded, 9 killed by a white supremacist. Those are just some of the right-wing killings of the last decade in the United States alone. Several of the more recent killers on that list said that they were inspired by the Christchurch shooting in New Zealand, which resulted in 89 wounded and Several of the more recent killers cited various right-wing influencers as inspiration, usually the ones fear-mongering about communism, cultural Marxism, and white replacement. There is no recent equivalent of this level of political murder on the left, and leftists could easily bring up these many anecdotes of deadly hate crimes over and over and over again. But why doesn't that happen? Because they aren't compelled by anecdotes, and they know that these murderers don't speak for the millions of conservatives out there who are not murdering people. Bigotry is not compelling to them. To them, it's an unintelligent point to say that so-and-so was a right-winger who killed people, therefore you are somehow implicated in that. Unless, of course, you're an influencer cited by said murderer, in which case your very label as an influencer speaks to your role. You influenced it. People like Tim Pool, Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Donald Trump, and many others like them have been cited by murderers as inspiration. Their common denominator is that they're all fear-mongers about leftists and immigrants. The tactic of right-wing influencers is to paint all Democrats and leftists as being on the verge of wanting to kill you, your entire family, or to replace you, and to burn down entire cities across America. To them, collective blame is compelling, which is why their killers are always motivated by bigotry. You're playing chess without any rules, and in the process, they play on your fears, which is why the right dominates on social media and successfully pushes their narrative. If you are a right-leaning person, I imagine that you think of just glossing over things like the 2020 riots, in which 19 people were killed and somewhere between $1 and $2 billion in damages was done. In actuality, glossing over that event would be to just dismiss every act of violence that summer as leftist. And nobody can honestly do that. It was a massive nationwide event. Around 20 million people participated in demonstrations across the country that summer. And it wasn't just leftists who had a problem with what happened to George Floyd, nor police brutality in general, at least in the moment before the narrative had time to spread its lie. 7,305 of the demonstrations, that's 96.3% of them, resulted in no violence and no damages. Human nature, and especially political propaganda, does not focus on widespread peaceful events. They focus on the violent 3.7%. not everyone was innocent. I'm not trying to say that. During the summer of 2020, yes, many crimes were committed. There's no doubt about that. But do the people who label all crimes that summer as leftist go and check the political affiliations of anyone who was arrested or convicted? No, of course not. To them, it's obvious. But is that justifiable? It got to the point where any crime that occurred within a city that had a protest was automatically blamed on BLM, Democrats, leftists, or Antifa, before any facts came out. Unlike the January 6th storming of the Capitol, the rioters in 2020 didn't all wear political merch indicating who they voted for. There were opportunistic looters who had nothing to do with any protest. The tragic murder of retired police captain David Dorn was used as a lightning rod against BLM. BLM murdered a black man was the rhetoric being spread. What happened was that Dorn tried to stop some people from stealing televisions out of his friend's pawn shop. A man named Stefan Cannon was allegedly the murderer and subsequently convicted and sentenced to life in prison after a 3-day trial. Incidentally, he was convicted even though he was linked to no forensic evidence, no murder weapon, and no witnesses who saw him shoot.
Mike, no forensic evidence, no murder weapon, and no witnesses saying they saw Stefan Cannon pull the trigger.
Assuming he did it, do we know anything about Stefan Cannon's politics? I can't find a single thing. News of his conviction subsumes everything else about him. Is stealing a television inherently leftist? No, but that would never stop propagandists from saying that BLM, or Democrats, or leftists, or Antifa, or insert political enemy killed David Dorn, turning his tragic murder into a juicy opportunity. And for a lot of people, sadly, a post from a popular social media influencer with zero citations will be all the evidence they need to come to a conclusion. A man with an AK-47 fired 13 rounds at a police station in Minneapolis during the riots. Many people assumed he was a leftist. Was he? No. His name was Ivan Hunter Harrison, and he was a far-right extremist, a self-professed Boogaloo boy, according to his Facebook account, and he drove up to Minnesota from Texas to cause trouble. I mean, you hear that 19 people were killed during the riots of 2020, and you may be tempted to assume that they were all innocent people killed by vicious leftists, but that's just not true. A lot of them were claimed to be self-defense. 2 of them were killed by Kyle Rittenhouse, for instance, and whether you think he did it in self-defense or not, it's still more complicated than some sort of leftist murder spree. Likewise, many others of those 19 killed during the riots were also allegedly killed in self-defense, like Calvin Horton Jr., David McAdam, Tyler Newby, and James Scurlock. Barry Perkins was a protester who was run over by a FedEx.
All right, I wanna briefly address Kyle Rittenhouse. So, I'm pro-gun. I do think it should be easy to legally get a firearm. You should have to take some mandatory training. It'll be recorded somewhere that you have a gun, and then boom, you have a gun. And I am pro self-defense. The fuck am I hearing? Okay. And I'll acknowledge that very likely the specific incidents of Kyle Rittenhouse committing violence were self-defense. Here's my problem. He put himself in a situation where he would need to defend himself. He did not just walk down the street and get killed. He antagonized people. They escalated. That is their fault. And then he killed them. And while in a legal sense, yes, that is self-defense. They took the bait. For political reasons, it should not be taken as, him being assaulted by complete, stranger leftists while he was doing nothing wrong. So, he has the same right to life as everyone else, same right to self-defense as everyone else. I believe he has the right to a gun. But he should not have been there. He crossed state lines with a gun specifically to antagonize protesters. Okay.
Truck and killed. David Patrick Underwood was a security guard at a federal building in California, killed during the riots by a man named Stephen Carrillo, another far-right extremist boogaloo boy who went there as an agent provocateur. He got life in prison. Jorge Gomez was shot and killed by police after they told protesters to disperse. None of the officers had body cameras, but security footage from a nearby building showed Gomez running away from the police when they shot him. Not to worry, the police investigated themselves and found that they did nothing wrong. The point I'm trying to make here is that the 19 deaths of the 2020 riots have a very different dynamic than an anti-immigrant extremist deliberately murdering a bunch of Hispanics at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, which was the case for Patrick Wood Crucius, who shot 45 people there, more than all the 2020 riots combined, killing 22 of them. In his words, because of the, quote, Hispanic invasion and cultural and ethnic replacement, unquote. Gee, I wonder where he heard that. Well, we don't really have to wonder, because he was a massive Trump fan and parroted all of Trump's slogans on his social media accounts. He was naturally a registered Republican. Yet how often have you heard the name of Patrick Crucius? How often
Never.
have you recently heard about what he did, an act that got him 90 life sentences? And he's just one of the many right-wing terrorists, including the ones I listed earlier, that you just never, ever hear about. Because people on the left and people on the right are compelled by very different forms of rhetoric. If a leftist wanted to use right-wing style rhetoric and lean into the fear and bigotry in order to smear and implicate millions of people with crimes they had nothing to do with, then they would have an absolutely endless gold mine of blood, gore, death, and tears to work from, all generated by the far right. But they just don't do that. It's against their ideals, and it's uncompelling to them. Hell, the only reason I'm mentioning it now is to address the lies. Because if the narrative was honest, I'd have no reason to speak on it. What's most ironic of all is that the rhetoric of fear and bigotry that is so successful for the right is the very same kind of rhetoric that inspires right-wing terrorism in the first place. Isn't that maddening? The very people who constantly lie about left-wing violence are the same ones who inspire the far more deadly right-wing violence. People are so often the very cause of the problems they themselves complain about. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, quote, far-right terrorism has significantly outpaced terrorism from other types of perpetrators, including from far-left networks and individuals inside of the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda. Right-wing attacks and plots account for the majority of all terrorist incidents in the United States since 1994, and the total number of right-wing attacks and plots has grown significantly during the past 6 years. Right-wing extremists perpetrated 2/3 of the attacks and plots in the United States in 2019 and over 90% between January 1st see if there has been a shift.
I don't even need to be
First,
breaking this down, do I?
ADL,
What am I
but
doing?
I knew people on the right would likely consider that a biased source, so I sought something more neutral and found the National Institute of Justice, which does scientific research on domestic terrorism, has a study on right-wing terrorism specifically, and is an official website of the United States government. Unfortunately, I could not obtain those statistics for you from that site because that information was made unavailable in order to be in compliance with an executive order from President Trump himself. Isn't that interesting? So, let's find other sources. Out of curiosity, what does the ADL say anyway? They say, quote, right-wing extremist terror incidents in the United States have been increasing since the mid-2000s, but the past 6 years have seen their sharpest rise yet. There were just 7 right-wing terror incidents in the period from 2005 to 2007, but by 2017 to 2019, there were 27, which increased to 40 in 2020 to 2022, unquote. This was published in 2023, and they say that from 2017 to 2022, there were 67 incidents of right-wing terrorism, resulting in 58 deaths. On to another source, according to the Statistical Research Department, quote, between 2014 and 2023, 76% of all domestic extremist-related killings in the United States were carried out by right-wing extremists. During this time period, 19% of extremist-related killings were carried out by perpetrators affiliated with domestic Islamist extremism. Unquote. You know what else is very interesting, besides making government statistics on right-wing terrorism unavailable because of an executive order? Is that all these attacks dramatically increased right after Trump got involved in politics, with all of his divisive, fear-mongering rhetoric echoed by these killers. What about another source? Let's go beyond the United States. Let's go to the GTD, the Global Terrorism Database, which has info on over 200,000 terrorist attacks, including 88,000 bombings, 19,000 assassinations, and 11,000 kidnappings, all since 1970. What does that worldwide wealth of information tell us? Well, it tells us that attacks by
so that can't
Islamist
actually be
extremists are 131% more likely to result in fatalities than attacks by right-wing extremists. And attacks by left-wing extremists are 45% less likely to result in fatalities than attacks by right-wing extremists. So the left is by far the least deadly of the ideologies, at least since 1970. This will confuse some of the more ignorant right-wingers because they consider Islam to be aligned with the left, which is absurdly false. Moderate Muslims could be leftists, just like moderate Christians can be as well. But if you're killing people, you're not moderate. Islamic extremists are very patriarchal. They're against women's rights. They're very much against LGBT people. They're religious fundamentalists, and they mix religion with government. They resemble the far right significantly more than the far left. So why do some right-wingers mistake them as left? Because leftists in the West tend to stand up for minorities, and Muslims are a minority in the West. We in the West also have the benefit of not being classified as terrorists when our governments bomb Muslims, even when most of the casualties are civilian, or when the strikes are done with the specific intent
What else can I do with the realm land?
and intimidate the very definition of terrorism. Trump said that he left orders that if Iranian officials had him assassinated, Iran is to be completely leveled until there's nothing left.
That would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left.
That's using one death to justify 90 million deaths.
That's a nice looking block.
An obvious extreme absurdity. Yet how often have you heard his base talk about it or object to it? Who's really more violent, and more accepting of widespread violence here. Between the right and the left, the stats don't lie. Left-wing extremists are the least likely to kill you. That will seem absurd to many right-wingers because they are ideologically captured by the narrative, just like Elon Musk is. It's all about what they focus on and what they ignore. For instance, there's about 20,000 murders in the United States per year. You never hear about the vast majority of those murders. But I bet you have heard about Laken Riley, for instance. That's because her murder was used to push a narrative that a significant portion of those 20,000 Americans killed per year are being killed in an invasion by illegal immigrants, so construed as a literal invasion by foreign countries that Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to circumvent the Constitution, the same act that was used to put Japanese American citizens in internment camps during World War II. If you were Japanese, they could put your entire life on hold and lock you up. Likewise, now, if you're Hispanic, agents in plain clothes and masks can just pick you up and disappear you, citizen or not. Doesn't matter. It's happening. If you're an Arab woman who writes an op-ed saying that the United States should cut ties with Israel, agents in plain clothes can take you off the sidewalk near your home in Boston and send you to a camp in Louisiana against judge's orders. That happened. First, Fourth, Fifth, Eighth, and 14th Amendments all be damned. After all, we're being invaded, and you have much to fear. So sacrifice your freedom and your rights and suspend the Constitution. Is that patriotic? What is worth this precedent of giving up your constitutional rights? Once you give them up, they're very difficult to get back. What are you so afraid of that you're willing to turn America into a police state? Well, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, 29 people were killed in homicides and manslaughters.
What was it? I was going for... Right, I needed furnaces.
29 too many, of course. I'm wondering, though, why there's such disproportionate fear and outrage for those 29, and usually only a few of those 29 repeated in the rhetoric, compared to the other 19,971 killed by native-born American citizens. Could it be because it's a disingenuous talking point designed to stoke fear and outrage? Looks like it. Their so-called invasion would have to kill 690 times more people just to equal the number of Americans killed by Americans. And such fear-mongering has ironically inspired even more killings by anti-immigrant white nationalist extremists. Incidentally, with 20,000 Americans murdered per year, that's a rate of around 7.5 per capita. Our far more liberal neighbors up north in Canada have around 2 homicides per capita compared to our 7.5. That's around 750 homicides per year compared to our 20,000. A lot of this puts Elon Musk's ignorant statements into perspective, doesn't it? Musk is ideologically captured. Has he studied the statistics? Has he examined all the events themselves? Obviously not. He blames it on legacy media. But you can learn all of this without relying on legacy media. And now he wants to alter his AI from giving correct answers to answers that align with the narrative he believes. That's very dangerous, because a lot of people already treat AI as if it's omniscient, our future God. On June 21st, 2025, Musk told people to respond to his tweet with politically incorrect facts to help train Grok. The post was immediately flooded by far-right influencers pushing their narratives about the Holocaust, Gaza, black people, trans people, etc. That's exactly what we need. AI to be trained by a bunch of fucking racists. Musk wants you to believe that the left is extremely violent, more so than the right, against all the evidence and statistics. And he's trying to force AI to parrot that narrative. Let's see how Elon Musk alone compares to the violence he focuses upon. This demands that we sort of switch gears for a moment, because the disproportionate deadliness of the violence from the right doesn't even scratch the surface of what we should be classifying as violence, yet do not. All of the violence I've been talking about so far has been very obvious forms of violence: shootings, killings, assassinations, riots, etc. But there is another kind of violence I'd like to tell you about, a kind that all too often goes overlooked, yet is far more deadly than everything I've mentioned so far. I want to ask you to rethink things you may have never even questioned before, like the true nature of violence, justice, and patriotism. There are things we misconceive every day that have very real and very serious consequences for millions of people. The negative consequences they suffer are enabled by our faulty perception of what's really going on. So it's absolutely vital that we start understanding as soon as possible. I was a child of the 70s. I grew up playing with plastic toy guns with my friends outside. We played cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians. Our young minds, even with our limited exposure to the world, perceived robbers and Indians as the violent ones, and the cops and cowboys as the peacekeepers, the ones who brought justice and protected innocent people. Those misconceptions persist into adulthood. We look at someone like Elon Musk posting pictures of rioters and we say, stop doing violence. Strive to be more like Elon Musk, a pillar of society, a visionary, and a genius. We see video of a policeman tackling and injuring someone for ignoring his commands, and we say, just comply. It's not hard. If you just did what you were told, then you'd be fine. Or we see someone being picked up by ICE and deported, and we say, don't come here illegally. If you want to be a citizen, then do it the right way. Simple. But what if everything I just told you is wrong? And not just a little bit wrong, but paradigm shifting, colossally wrong? What if it's someone who is here legally, maybe even born here? As Trump says, the homegrowns are next. What if law enforcement abusing their authority has significantly worse consequences than someone illegally crossing a border? What if it's a severely autistic teen who doesn't even understand the policeman's orders? Or someone who can't physically comply? What if Elon Musk is one of the most violent people who has ever walked the face of the earth? Far more violent than an entire city of rioters combined. Now, right away, that will sound ridiculous to many of you, and I can understand why. Think of all the criminals out there, the mass shooters, serial killers, warlords, etc., who you would be far more likely to think of as significantly more violent than Elon Musk. I want you to rethink that. Understand that you may have faulty perceptions that lead you to bad conclusions. Bad conclusions result in problems either not being solved or being exacerbated. When you go to Elon Musk's X, formerly Twitter, you'll find that those who hate black people are well embedded there. It's a place where terabytes of propaganda are uploaded every day, accusing black people of being violent criminals by their very nature, while Musk is praised as a genius and a visionary. Let me offer you an alternate perspective on that dynamic. For instance, there's a place called
Cold.
Boxtown
I'm gonna be honest, that jump scared me. I felt my shoulders like clip up.
Elon Musk was
Hi, Mooney.
to jump on board the AI craze. At first,
Would you like to
he was against it
join in a
and
voice
even
call?
warned that it's dangerous, even apocalyptically so. Thus, he reasoned that it needs to be strictly regulated.
I think AI is one of the biggest threats, but I do think it's one of the existential risks that we're facing as potentially the most pressing. Or if you look at the time scale and the rate of advancement, I think it's the summit is timely. I applaud the Prime Minister for
But as others began securing a foothold in the
New.
new exploding AI industry, Musk quickly
No.
abandoned his doomsaying and professed principles, something quite common for him, and rushed to catch up. This included a massive data center with 35 methane-burning gas turbine generators that was quickly constructed on 500.
I might say some stuff I'll die from embarrassment.
Supply his facility with the requisite energy.
Love you.
You need some pretty serious permits for that sort of thing for a very good reason. You address these things with the local community for a very good reason. But Musk did neither. Musk hates regulations when they apply to him, you see. He thinks they just get in the way. Lawyers did records requests with the local government and with the EPA and found that they had no permits on record. So not only was he using these generators without permits, but he was using far more than were allowed, even if he had permits. Those regulations...
And honestly, typing is hard. My hand's very cold and I did give myself first-degree burns on my right knuckles.
My love.
Musk's answer for using too many generators was that only about half of them were being used, so it's okay. Since there's a nationwide shortage of these turbine generators, it seems kind of dubious that he'd have so many of them just lying around doing nothing. So, a flyover of the facility was done with an infrared camera, and it showed that all the generators were, in fact, being used, and that Musk was just lying as usual. That didn't really matter, though, because as luck would have it, Musk would end up having direct control over those regulating him in the government. How convenient. Those are the perks of buying the president. So naturally, nothing would be done about it. Thus, an immigrant would be free to harm American citizens. Pretty ironic, huh? The result? Terribly polluting emissions inflicted upon Boxtown, including formaldehyde and nitrogen oxide. These are linked to asthma, heart disease, and cancer.
I swear it was an accident. A Cambro fell while I was trying to get food from it and the hot steam came up and burned me.
I
I'm sorry.
believe you that it's an accident, but still. Grumble, grumble, grumble.
We went to Memphis and found an environmental crime scene. Musk's data center burning enough methane to power a small city with no permits and no pollution controls.
I have not seen anything like this. We believe they've already violated the Clean Air Act.
As Musk helps dismantle the very federal agency that's supposed to protect us against pollution like this,
There is no way to miss how this is a coordinated strategy.
I'm sorry.
Several interviews with residents of Boxtown, and it's
I
quite
love you.
unbearable for them. This state is always present. There's no escape from it. It's there when they wake up in the morning and when they go to bed at night. It's not just outside, it's inside their homes. Leaving town is a relief. Going home is dreaded.
I've already treated it with burn ointment.
I was asleep. And it woke me up because
Well, that's
I was
nice.
sleeping in the house. We come find out, we come outside. And all the neighbors
Well, actually, wait, what's the burn
know
ointment?
what's going on.
Because there's a lot of different things that are called burn ointment.
Musk has helped the Trump administration place strict limits on the EPA's budget as part of President Trump's broader project to radically reshape the agency. Trump's EPA has begun what it calls the biggest deregulatory action in U.S. history.
To fulfill President Trump's promise to unleash American energy and give power back to the states.
It eliminated the EPA's office that assists heavily polluted communities like South Memphis. It canceled billions of dollars of funding protections against fine particulate matter. The new head of the agency describes promoting the AI industry as a core part of the EPA's mission.
Now I want you to use this example to rethink the rhetoric of crime and violence. If you are physically attacked by a mugger, it will be very traumatic for you. If you are struck, it could result in pain that lasts for weeks. If you end up with a broken bone, that's going to hurt for months. If your wallet or purse is taken, you lose all the money that was on you. And you have to cut off your credit cards and get new ones. You have to get a new driver's license, maybe replace whatever other cards you have, take steps to prevent identity theft, etc. It's a big hassle. If the mugger is caught, then they could face some well-deserved jail time, be forced to pay restitution, possibly have to do
That's not in
community
there.
service and probation. They'll have a criminal record that will affect their rights and future employment. Think about all those
Can't remember.
consequences that
I asked the cook if they had anything for burns.
between one
I read something about topical ointment for burns.
obvious
It worked wonders.
violence, and it's obviously immoral. But now I want you to think about what it would be like to get cancer or a respiratory illness that will last the rest of your life. Breathing affects everything you do. If you can't breathe well, then you're miserable, period. Nothing else matters. There is no relief after a couple months of wearing a cast, as there would be with a broken wrist, for example. You end up losing thousands of dollars due to medical bills, rather than just what you happen to have in your wallet or purse that day. Even your house is stolen from you, in a way, not because you don't want to live there anymore due to the emissions, but because nobody else would either, so you're not going to get what you paid for it, if you can even sell it at all. And none of that
Well, if it worked, it
happened
works.
naturally.
Yeah.
A
There's a lot of things that help.
knowingly did that to you for their own personal gain and took extra steps to get away with it, to escape accountability, like a mugger evading police. And they didn't just do it to you, they did it to your neighbors too. And the person most responsible for doing that will not have to set a single foot in prison.
The poor PSW who saw me get burned.
Praised, encouraged, and fawned over
The
by
poor
very
PSW.
same
PSW.
people who call you violent by nature. Rethink crime and violence. When most people see Elon Musk, they don't think of a violent criminal the way they would if they saw footage of someone being attacked and mugged. But given their actual actions,
It was a white bottle with a green label.
Musk is significantly more violent than an entire mob of muggers or rioters. It's just that the violence looks very different. It's cloaked and gradual. It's not the drama of a window being smashed. It's gas silently seeping into your
The cook has
lungs,
all sorts of medical stuff for injuries.
benefit. It's
Glad
not
to hear
something
that.
to catch on video and go viral in a propaganda.
Okay, so I need 48 and 52 of those two blocks.
Personal support worker, they take the plate I put together to the resident.
Ah! No, that makes sense.
I shouldn't be leaving my area once it's go time.
Okay. Say here. Start right here. 4, 4, 4. Oh, goddamn.
Yeah, band-aids, burn ointment, general ibuprofen, finger cots. Love them for it.
Okay, now I have a decision to make. Do I make this 104 or stick with the 100? Because this would be the edge. I think I'm going with 104. Nope. Of course.
There's still small dark spots where the steam hit my knuckles, but otherwise it's pretty faded.
That's nice. I tend to scar from burns. I have just like permanently darker skin wherever I got burned. Actually, I'm pretty sure I still have a bunch of those marks. I can go check. Oh, what the hell? Please be a diamond backpack. Fuck.
Well, it was not fun. I hissed and the poor PSW looked at me and asked if I was okay as I quietly but quickly walked to my sink to soothe my burn with cold water.
Cold water
After that it hurt
soothes.
going near anything hot with my right hand.
In my experience, I mean, it's good, obviously, in terms
After
of
that
like,
it hurt
health.
going near anything hot with my right hand.
But in my experience, the cold water part always hurts. Please be a diamond backpack, please be a diamond backpack. Come on. Damn it.
Well, lukewarm to cold, so it was a slow cool down.
Okay, that makes sense. Not to knock out this whole lake.
I still had work to do, but I was ahead so I could take time to do a slow cool down on the burn.
Well, that's nice. I try to get ahead on my work every day just because I hate, like, being at work. I want to finish with my stuff and go home. It's the best kind of job out there. I'm gonna need to cleave through this whole mountain. That'll be fine. I have Rive. And those guys on the ground really just don't shut up.
I meant timing-wise, I had done more than I usually do at the given time.
Oh. Nice. Okay. That is one
Sadly,
corner.
because the Cambro dropped some bacon was lost to the steamer.
What? Because the Cambro dropped some bacon was lost to the steamer. I must not know much about your job, because that was nonsense to me.
Yes, I cleaned the Cambro afterwards.
Okay. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Let's place the one block here for sake of making that obvious. Oh. Really like taking the tough jobs. Yeah, I don't know what a Cambro is. So that doesn't,
I serve food, food is in Cambro, steamer is my holding pot, yo, keep things hot.
Steamer is your holding pot, you keep things hot. Food is in Cambro.
Also I meant clean the steamer, steam table.
Right. Yeah, I still have no idea what a Cambro is.
It's a type of container. I'll send one in Discord.
That would be appreciated. Alright, let's just get the other wall so I have a better idea of the zone I'm working with here.
Send it over.
Okay, looking. Oh, it's like a Tupperware. Okay. I assume it's more heat resistant than the Tupperware we have.
That just an example with have hard plastic one and metal ones.
Yeah. Looks like I'm extending the ocean here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we got you.
The plastic ones can at least handle 100 C.
That's a lot more than Tupperware. Okay. Yeah, Tupperware burn at like 85, I think. It's like it's not great. You're not really meant to like cook with it. You're meant to store things as they're like going in the fridge. That's the primary purpose. For okay.
Yeah, no, they don't go in ovens. That's what the metal ones are for. However, they can hold hot foods such as hot cereal.
I'll be honest, every time I hear hot cereal, I think of just like throwing like Frosted Flakes in the microwave, and it is just horrifying to me. I realize that's not what that is, but that's what my brain immediately jumps to. Is
I can cook eggs in a plastic can, bro.
okay.
And they can go into microwaves. I use that for my hot cereals like cream of wheat.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. If they can reach 100 C, then they can go in the microwave. That's just the way things work. I mean, there's theoretical worries about just like thermal expansion and the way that water works, where it could like redirect more heat to one localized region, but that's a relatively minor concern compared to just how much temperature it can handle.
Warping in the Cambros can happen, but I don't know how much we've had these Cambros. All of them look well used. Sorry, not much, I meant long.
No, I get it. Fucking possessed cactus. Needs it.
But yeah, got first degree burns on my right hand knuckles and palm.
Yeah. At least they're first degree burns.
That's what I said to the PSW.
Okay.
Anything more and I'd have to stop what I was doing. If I had blisters, I've gotta stop working and treat them right away. Bodily fluid issue.
I mean, I would hope you'd be stopping for, personal health reasons, but... yeah, that's good too. Fucking... cacti! There we go. The cacti must die.
That too.
You know what? I'm gonna make it an official law of Solmar that you are to destroy all wild cactuses. So that way, if you see a cactus, you know it's a frickin' worm. I'm gonna go put that in the chat. Solmar. I am declaring a new Solmar.
Does that mean they must cacti?
All cacti must die. Destroyed.
Be a dumb she.
Yep.
I shall excuse myself for the pun.
No, no, you don't get to excuse yourself for puns. You have to get excused by your victims. Okay, they have to forgive you. And I forgive you. Mwah.
Boomy.
Yeah.
You have no idea the flood I'm holding back right now because I don't want to say it openly.
Well, we do have a Discord chat for you to say things in. Oh, speaking of, I have a message. Solmar going to war with cacti was not on my 2025 bingo. Well, it should have been.
No point typing there when you aren't gonna read it for a bit.
Perhaps.
I thought it was going to war for me.
I mean, I'm going to war for you. Solmar probably isn't. Like, you don't canonically exist, remember? You could canonically exist. I could get you added at any time.
Oh shit, right. I'm the myth that someone tried to join but could never and was given a grave marker.
No, that's for Frontiers. All right, this is not Frontiers. This is not Legacy. This is. No, that was Legacy. You're right, not Frontiers. But still, that's Legacy. This is not Legacy. So this is a different game. You don't get to use your lore unless you actually enter and use your lore. which I'm welcoming you to do.
Wait.
Wait? What am I waiting for?
Wait. Which Swasan are we talking about now?
You were the person who couldn't join season 1. This isn't Legacy though, so this is like negative season numbers.
How would you even add me into Solmar?
I can invite you to the server. You can join me in this grand quest. Now that we have regen bacon, a ton of food to get you 20 extra hearts,
Just some dead lover
high-end
or some shit.
armor, and all that. No, I mean you're a character who's joining. I'm not Drachman. This is just another Solmar. This is not within the original continuity. We're adding on to Solmar. Like, you wouldn't be in season 1, you would be in this.
Wait, in the server you're in?
Yeah.
No, I couldn't. That's imposing on something I wasn't directly invited to by the owner.
I literally invited Guy and Thermite and it was cool. Like, another guy invited like 6 of his
That would
friends.
be rude of me, and the owner does
was
not
like,
know me.
That was cool. The owner doesn't know me! I met him the day he opened the server. I knew who he was, but he didn't know me. I don't even think he actually knows about my YouTube channel, still. Like, we're both fucking nobodies to Vars. I mean, I'm a little less so now, given the work I'm doing with him for this, but... You know, as of a week ago, I didn't exist to him.
I would rather be sure I have permission from the owner to join.
Then join the Discord and ask. That's... You have to, it's a whitelist. Like the invite I would be giving you would be the invite to the Discord and saying, hey, this is...
Also, is RP like important, or is it just playing Minecraft?
So, RP is
I don't know
optional,
how.
but encouraged, particularly in building. Vars wants this to be a forever world, so it's not exactly like a, you know, PvP factions, all that. The whole Solmarian, you know, pride and and violence and all that is being toned down to fit with the motifs of the server. Alright, let's go get let's get this sorted. Yeah. But would you like to join me? Even with all my help, the server won't be a cakewalk.
I don't know how to get into the server unless invited. Which I'd rather have permission from the owner and then you send the invite to me.
My love, his Discord's a public Discord. It's not a private Discord. It's not even dedicated to just the server. It's his like channel Discord. An invite to that has like it's literally just posted on YouTube. It's kind of like you know, the ones for all the different mods that I'm in. Like it's
I don't know the server.
yeah, but I can invite you. I just want to know that you're interested.
I don't know this person.
He makes League of Legends, Super Smash Brothers, and Genshin Impact content for the most part. I think a little bit of Pokemon, but I'm not too up to date on his Pokemon stuff. What the fuck is with these trees? I need to abide by my own laws and kill all these cactus. There we go.
I don't mind a challenge. However, I'm not a strong player in most aspects, so I'm not sure if I'm compatible/reliable player.
What's the thing? I don't need you to help with like boss fights or anything. Like I'm still happy to do all the like difficult adventuring and power scaling and everything. And you can see how trivial it is for me to just face tank everything right now. Like with the kind of setup that I have, which I can give you, you should be fine, right? Here, I'll literally just message Vars right now. My girlfriend is anxious and really wants to be personally assured that she's invited before trying to join. That's the best time for lunch. I'll be having my second meal in an hour myself.
Combat isn't something I enjoy. Exploring and adventuring is my cup of tea. I love the thrill of going somewhere new.
Well, there's a whole lot of that on this server. I think there's like 20 different dimensions or some crap. It's a lot. And obviously, like the Twilight, you've already seen like a bajillion times. But there's others. Divine RPG adds a bunch. That adds like 7. And the End and the Nether both have like revamps. The Twilight is basically just the same as it's always been, though. Apparently, it is still being worked on, though. So, like, the final boss might eventually be a thing. I'm hoping it's something kind of like the Sun Spirit in the Aether. Not in terms of mechanics, but in terms of like lore, where they're the reason the Twilight doesn't have time. And so a standard daylight cycle will start when you kill it. Or it'll be like controllable or something.
If that is something you need on the team, I wouldn't mind joining. But now I need to make another skin.
What's wrong with, Actually, yeah, I guess a ranger would look pretty weird here, wouldn't it? I'm playing the Twink. Yes, my God King is, a fucking dork. One neat thing, by the way, this is a technical Minecraft thing. The Enderman can pick up most natural blocks
Oi,
just fine.
that's my Twink.
What? Who said that? You. What do you mean that's your Twink? I am not a Twink. I'm playing as a Twink. So how is the Twink yours? Did you make the skin and I just forgot? I could see that happening. But I don't think that's what happened.
Yeah, my Twink. You play it, it's mine.
You own everything that I do? Is that the argument?
It's still you, just using a different avatar. I didn't make the skin.
Okay, so I was right on that front. Okay. God, there's so much fucking sand. On the plus side, I don't think I'll ever need sand again, but I'll definitely need more sandstone than this. So I might need to burn it all anyway. Alright, Vars hasn't actually responded to me yet. I will...
So shit, my love. You're in the desert. Turn the sand into sandstone.
I feel like that was two different people. I gotta look. It was not. Also, you have no idea how long it'll take to convert all of this sandstone into sand. Sorry, all the sand into sandstone. Like, it is, without automation from like Create or something, it is like hours of work. It's legitimately faster to just mine more.
Your paranoia is showing. No?
So, while that was paranoia, I feel like that was justifiable paranoia because of the difference in messaging and tone compared to how you usually talk to me.
Use a crafting table 2x2 done.
That gets me like a stack.
Or use an anvil.
Use an anvil? What the fuck? How would an anvil help? And no, it's the sheer amount of time it
Wait,
takes
NVM, that was a mod.
to do the... What? I'm only getting more confused. Oh, I don't have the hunger. That has a lot of potion effects, which should be good. It was not. It didn't have weakness. Oh, I gave it weakness.
I said anvil thinking stonecutter, and there was a mod I used that allowed you to use a stonecutter to turn basic blocks like sand into its craftable counterpart for a reduced cost.
Oh, well, I mean, you can do that to some extent, but not with sand. Okay. I need to grab more from the thing. And I have 2 messages. Moon, Nini, Halo. Alright, you have been officially invited by VARs and are being added to the whitelist as we speak. Are you still going to say you're not invited?
Still, if you have too much sand to use, might as well.
I mean, that is certainly the advice. His advice was, tell her you paid for half the server. So, yeah, I paid for half the server. I have the authority to invite you, according to VARs. So you're invited. I'll get you that Discord. Here. Invite to
Well, I
server.
won't turn it down now.
Real quick, your in-game name is Mu E Ni Halo, right? I'm not fucking it up like I did with P-Master. Oh wait, that's orange sand. Shit. I need you. But yeah, Moonini Halo is your IGN.
Let me check.
I'll get her in after food. All right, he's eating lunch.
Pretty sure.
So you won't be added until he gets back from lunch. Also, he's actually in the same time zone as us, so yes, he is eating lunch at 4:40 in the afternoon. A man after my own heart. I eat a healthy amount. I just eat it at weird times. That's it's a worm. Okay. Buzz off. This is how you can tell an Enderman was there. I kind of like the impossible sugar cane. Alright, let's get you all in there.
B, but I have your heart.
You do indeed. But what are you gonna do with it? Because I just can't see you, taking full advantage. Alright. Look at it. Did you join? I don't actually see the chat where people join things, so I legitimately don't know. But yeah, you're getting added to the Minecraft channel soon. The beta one, because the regular Minecraft is just a discussion channel. It's not actually for the people on the server. That is a sick as fuck storage system. Someone posted it in there. Oof. Alright, I'll stick you in there for now. I need you. you. Actually, wait, I don't need a bunch of you. I just need a queue. Bam, 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 bam. Okay. And then I need one block of orange sandstone. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bam. Alright. Okay. That's that edge. Let's just fill this in for the sake of aesthetics. Okay. Two, nope, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's get another set here. Extending that way. I think this is going to be faster. And easier to count. Duh. Okay. finish the video I was watching before. It's only like 20 minutes left, and my stream's gonna be ending soon, so
A post.
gonna keep
In
that going.
fact, a whole group of muggers would have great difficulty manually replicating the magnitude of Musk's violent assault on that town alone. How could they? The police would likely stop them before they could even get close to doing as much damage. But what the police won't do is stop someone like Elon Musk. Musk will go on his website and harshly condemn a riot or the vandalizing of Teslas, and he gets to be taken seriously and not be seen as
Okay, well, Microsoft is being annoying, but hey, I am pretty sure Moonany Halo is my Minecraft user.
of not only violence,
Alright.
but who engages in violence and how. If I were to ask you, however, would you rather have your car vandalized, or would you rather end up with a lifelong respiratory illness, cancer, and the loss of your house? Which would you choose? I would not want either one of those things to happen to you, obviously, but I think we both know that if you were given the choice, you'd rush to choose the low-life vandal over what the so-called genius visionary Musk has done to others. If we were all forced to choose, then the line in front of the vandal would be quite long, and there would be no line in
But
front of Musk.
are they aware how lovey-dovey we are?
Life. Far
No.
more contempt for the vandal than for
I'm sure
Musk.
they'll live.
At least a great many of us do. And I say, that's wrong. I say, that's the result of misconception. I want to give you another example out of the countless to choose from. See, we were sending antiretroviral medication to pregnant women with HIV in developing countries. The same countries in which we are told that people are just violent by their very nature. Taking that medication while they're pregnant prevents their babies from being born with HIV. After Elon Musk was unlawfully given control of their funding, he cut off their medication in the name of wasteful government spending. That immediate result was at least 300 babies being born with HIV who otherwise wouldn't have, which they'll have for the rest of their lives and could result in their deaths. I want you to imagine being a pregnant mother with HIV in a developing country where the medication preventing your baby from getting AIDS is about $100 a month, and that medication being taken from you by the richest man on earth because he thinks it's wasteful.
Okay, confirmed. Moonany Halo is my user.
It's $100
Facts.
to Musk.
It's not case sensitive, so I don't need to worry about that.
In 2024, Elon Musk's wealth increased by $6,420 per second. That means picking up a $100 bill off the sidewalk would be a waste of his time. To pay for all 300 mothers for all 9 months of each
That's actually insane. That picking up $100 bills off the ground would
42
lose him
seconds of
money
wealth accumulation.
per second.
That's what he made. And much of that was paid by your taxes, which he did not cut off for himself, curiously. He cut it off for those babies. I want you to imagine what a room with 300 babies in it would look like. Imagine Elon Musk going from baby to baby and injecting them with HIV. We all recognize that as an absolutely unforgivable crime, worthy of life in prison or even the death penalty. That imagined scenario may sound quite ridiculous to you, and of course, I don't think Elon Musk would physically do such a direct thing himself, but the result of what he actually did had the same effect. They wouldn't have had HIV if not for the actions of Elon Musk. When confronted with the results of his actions, Musk immediately denied it, no differently than any other criminal would deny their crime. The optics are so bad that he naturally, reflexively denied it. There is no real denying it, though. He stopped all the funding and even bragged about putting it in the wood chipper. He danced around on a stage with a chainsaw like a clown. He put on a show and wanted to be known for this before he knew the consequences of what he was doing. When he sought approval from those wanting to cut waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, he was more than willing to admit cutting all funding, which included their medication. Like a criminal bragging to his friends about stealing a car but then denying it to the police when he gets caught. When confronted with the results, he nonchalantly said that mistakes will be made and they'll look into things and restore certain things. And he has been known to lie about restoring funding that was never restored, like the Ebola prevention efforts that he said were accidentally canceled but promptly restored.
And I should say, we will make mistakes. We won't be perfect, but when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly. So, for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled very briefly was Ebola prevention. I think we all want Ebola prevention. So we restored the Ebola prevention immediately, and there was no interruption.
It's not that
All right.
simple.
In the server.
Teams and contractors
Yo.
were dismantled and unpaid for work.
Alright, once VARS grants you your access, you'll be added to the Minecraft beta chat, which will have the like the mod pack and the IP.
But that waiver didn't do anything to restore any of the dismantling that occurred. The waiver didn't magically reassemble the teams and draw up new contracts. It rebuilt nothing. All that work needs to be done again now, but the money that was unfrozen still can't even be accessed. The purpose of the waiver after the damage was done was just so that Musk could stand in front of cameras and say that it was quickly restored, even though that's false in physical reality. And for people like those 300 babies, it will always be too little too late to restore funding.
As to Elon Musk's statement at the White House that the Ebola activities had been restarted, it was not accurate then. It's not accurate now. Despite the Ebola response activities being the first that we pushed as soon as the waiver was issued, the activities were never allowed to move forward, and ultimately those contracts were terminated. We repeatedly raised the fact that we had partners that were at the airport ready to screen travelers to make sure that they did not have Ebola before leaving the country, but the activities could not start because the administration would not allow funding to move to those partners. And that we had 27,000 sets of PPE that we had already procured that were sitting and ready for immediate deployment at a warehouse in nearby Kenya that could have been deployed urgently. However, leadership up to and including Pete Morocco blocked the approval and the availability of funds, despite saying the opposite publicly, and also in response to Congress, I understand, and certainly to the National Security Council.
According to UN Aid, there was also a waiver for pregnant mothers with HIV after their funding had been cut and those babies were already affected. So even though it's too late for them, at least now their need is acknowledged. But unfortunately, that's just the tip of the iceberg. According to UN Aid, if those programs are not restored in the next 4 years, aka Trump's term, it will result in an additional 6.6 million new HIV infections. That's around 2,300 additional new HIV infections per day. An additional 4.2 million AIDS-related deaths. That's over 600 additional AIDS-related deaths per day. Much of that AIDS prevention happens in developing countries, and there are many Americans who do not want their tax money to benefit those who aren't Americans, which is one reason Musk has gained so much support for Doge, despite the fact that it won't even put a tiny happens if far fewer people in the world have deadly infectious diseases. But the bottom line is that the deaths of millions of people will be directly related to the actions Elon Musk took. Rethink how we perceive violence. When you think about the actual real-world results, Elon Musk is one of the most violent people who has ever walked upon the face of the earth. The problem is, most people do not think of him that way because Elon Musk's violence is cloaked, gradual, and normalized. He has a comfortable buffer between the results of his actions, like the politician who orders a drone strike while dining at a fancy restaurant. The truth is that by the end of Elon Musk's life, he will have directly contributed to the deaths of countless people. Elon Musk's violence is done with paperwork, however, and an army of employees doing what they're told. But just like the mugger, it results in people being physically and financially harmed so that Musk can gain wealth. The very same incentive and result as someone who does a violent robbery. Except for Musk, it's worse because his violence and theft are at an industrial scale and go unpunished. Elon Musk belongs in prison, but we all know that won't happen, despite the fact that the few examples I've given here barely scratch the surface of the violence he has done. This video would need to be days long, possibly even weeks.
I hope you know I do want affection, just not on YouTube.
I know.
Tesla became
Though you do always
sale
want
of
affection.
carbon credits. Musk got to have a reputation as the CEO of a green company that cares about climate change. But in reality, they were selling their carbon credits so that other companies could pollute more. Tesla's first profitable year came not from selling cars, but from selling pollution. As with regulating AI, Musk claims to care about climate change, but the truth is that he's one of the most prolific polluters this planet has ever seen.
Yes, I do, as I deserve.
Elon may be
You
the
do
most
deserve it.
infuriating
This is true.
example because he gets so much undeserved credit, has an army of sycophants, and does far more harm than good. But Elon Musk himself is just one example among countless others. It's not just Elon who gets away with egregious acts of violence because we fail to perceive it as such, but a great many people. The billionaire class, the corrupt politicians who work for them, and the corrupt law enforcement that does the corrupt politicians' bidding, right on down the line. It always happens this way. They seize all the power, turn everyone against each other, the whole thing collapses, and then we start all over again. Never learning, always repeating the pattern. Are we really doomed to that cycle again? Is it really necessary? Can't we learn? Look, the bottom line is this. There's persistent narratives out there specifically designed to mislead you. And not just slightly, but massively so. So that you believe blatant lies are obvious truths. It's up to you to look beyond the narrative and straight at the actual events themselves. And not just the events they want you to look at, but the events they don't talk about, and the people they don't talk about. Because the narrative isn't just what they want to show you, it's also what they hide from you. And I say this to you not as a Republican and not as a Democrat. I'm neither. I say this to you as someone who greatly values the truth and wants you to believe what is true in a world that constantly bombards you with lies. Resist.
But I shall wait. I shall wait for the payoff.
Shall wait for the payoff. Well, I did invite you to get on call if you wanted some from that. Just to hear me say how much I love you. Because I do. Ooh, another episode of Overanalyzing Death Note came out. Hell yeah.
Back, everyone. Episode 34. So the episode picks up right where we left off last time, with Giovanni trailing Mikami after watching him kill someone on the train. Giovanni talks to Rester and Yuri about it, and they've all decided that after seeing that, Mikami's definitely yeah. So with that confirmed,
Not while on YouTube.
but Nier goes on to say that they can't be too reckless in their approach because there's still something else that needs to continue. That thing being Giovanni.
Machine gun and loyal to Mikami.
I mean, I don't know about all that. Have you met Ryu? Oh, well, no, I guess you haven't. So it's probably fair for me to assume that. Hell, I am familiar with Ryuk, and while he probably would bring it up initially if he noticed someone following him, it wouldn't be out of any sense of loyalty.
I'm no ally of yours, because personally I stopped being followed.
But regardless of that, given the fact that they can't even see the future, it is best to proceed with caution. Hell, you could be watching Giovanni right now for all we know. And actually, for all we know, too, because where the hell is he? He didn't even show up in the last episode, now that I think about it. But, okay, with the SPK now certain that Pretty is ex-Yida, Giovanni sets off to cautiously continue monitoring. Now from there we head over to Light and Aizawa as we see them getting the hotel room ready for Light's next date with Takada. And after Aizawa goes on to provide us a brief recap about what he already knows so far about Light and Takada's date nights, he ends up thinking,
The first thing that came to my mind was that they were able to communicate by writing messages.
okay, well at least you are, at the very least, considering that that could be a possibility. Though, really, after what happened in the last episode, that long pause between Light and Takada's shock, I'd hope that all of y'all were at least a little wary about the possibly crossing notes.
For the entire room, there's nothing in it. There's only the wiretap.
Now, this kind of answers my question as to why a wiretap is allowed, but a camera isn't. Because that was kind of bothering me. And if I'm being honest, it still bugs me a little bit. Because where are the cameras y'all used for light stream back in the day? Y'all put 64 of those things in his tiny room, 4 of which were just on his desk right in front of him. And to y'all's knowledge, he never even noticed them. You're telling me that you can't pop one of those things in the corner of the room without being noticed? Or could it be that that tech was one of Wafadi's inventions and you just don't have access to it?
Why does Light care so much about checking for cameras and wiretaps?
That's actually a fair question because who does he think would be listening in? I suppose he could, theoretically, be worried about Kira listening in, given he's telling Takada to stand up for herself against him. And actually, given the nature of the conversation that they'll be having later this evening, it does make sense for him to be a little paranoid about Kira possibly listening in. You know, if he wasn't actually Kira himself.
Why is Kira allowing these meetings in the first place?
That's a fantastic question. Or, well, I probably would have said that prior to the last episode. So let's just see what happens. So from there, the scene devolves into a bit of comedy as the wife and Takara continue arguing while Matsuda and Ide do the same. For the lovers, it's about White trying to cheat on her and her not putting up with it. And with these two idiots, it's about whether or not like he wants to Lisa, which is such a weird thing to be going on about because as far as they're concerned, he's only doing all of this for the sake of the investigation. Once it's over, why would he keep doing it? But regardless, it all ultimately culminates with Togawa telling them to shut the fuck up before the scene focuses back in on Light and Taka.
Trust you, but if I find out that you're lying, I'll tell Kira about it. Kira.
I hate it because their chemistry is undeniable with their little tongue-in-cheek flirtations. I can't stand them. But from there, Light decides to switch things up as he talks about how he really wants to be with Taka and how he hates Kira for choosing her as his spokesperson because it means that they can't be together, which is just odd. Like, I get where he's going with this. I see the vision. This is for the boys back in the office to try and make it look like they're trying to sway her into betraying Kira. But it just doesn't make sense. For one, who said y'all can't be together? Kira clearly doesn't care that likely talking in Japanese as he says this. But as far as what Yukimi is saying to himself, it's actually two things. The first thing is that which right off the bat is weird. Because the first question that comes to my mind when you hear this is he putting on an act? Because what reason would Yukimi have for asking this question? I mean, since he's touched the neighborhood, Yukimi always, like, I know Shinigami will do things with all, but they can't legitimately hide their presence. Even after that happens. So, since we know that that's not possible, him saying this has to be an act. And in fact, it's made even more obvious when we discover the next thing he says, which is,
That Shinigami, ever since he handed me the notebook, hasn't been here.
because he's just straight up lying. Ryuk didn't hand him this notebook, he got it in the mail. Sure, Ryuk showed up on at least two separate occasions, now that I think about it, so even the part about not seeing him since he got the notebook is a lie. And if he's lying like that, then he must mean that he's aware that he's being followed, which means we now have to consider whether he was being followed yesterday. Yeah, it had to have been yesterday, right? Because earlier Takeda mentioned that the dinner she had with Lisa was last night, and the train incident happened right after that. Meaning it's only been about 24 hours since what's happened at the train, which means Yukimi had to have been locked in too. So this is, I mean, it's a trap. And apparently it's an effective one too, because in hearing this neighborhood say, before promptly throwing Shinigami Lego back into his toy bag. And yeah, whatever Light has planned, it's undeniably working as far as we can tell. Now from there we head back to Takeda and Light as they wrap their data. And it's funny because up until this rewatch, I had always watched this scene and thought that him, readjusting his tie like this as Takeda was leaving the room was an indication that he was getting dressed after they finished getting it in. But this time around, since I'm aware that he's wearing a wire on his person that Takeda is technically not supposed to know about, it wouldn't make sense for him to undress in front of him. And also, given the fact that Takeda does actually know about some sort of wire being present in the room, I doubt she'd put an audience listening in to that particular kind of interaction. So, yeah. Now, after this, we see Light leave the hotel himself, with Aizawa coming behind to check out something, which is something that he typically does, according to Matsu. But instead of checking out right away, he instead goes back into the hotel room to see the results of his test. Lo and behold,
Okay, the sound here is
But I mean, he's not wrong. Let's just be open and honest about it. Hell, the show has been pretty clear about the fact that the task force is mostly irrelevant at this point. I mean, Matsuda and Ide are fucking around more often than not. Mogi's been sequestered off to Lisa Misa land, where he's essentially become her personal bitch, and Aizawa, well, yes, proving that light is shady, and what I will say was a clever way, has only served to point out the elephant in the room. And hell, none of them are even aware of Enigma at this point. So even if they did want to try to confront or even fight, what would it accomplish? Someone else is clearly out there with the notebook already. Like, there's just nothing for y'all to do. Or, well, scratch that. Which honestly is a little insulting, I feel. I mean, it is the very least, or no, sorry, I got that backwards. It is the very most that they do at this point, and it does feel like they're glorified babysitters for the worst kid in the world. But that being said, Nier does go on to say that watching over L isn't without merit, claiming that he's already factored it into his plan. The scene then ends with him saying that when this investigation draws to a close,
Witness to the end of Kira.
and look, a couple things before we head into it. Firstly, as cool as Nier is supposed to seem, it's kind of difficult to be like, oh, he's definitely going to win, when I know that he's currently
The sounds you are making are interesting.
The sounds I'm making. What sounds am I making?
and it actually took me a minute to realize that that's what they were, because at first I thought they might be Japanese projections, but then I realized that they were typically made of wood or plastic, and these things definitely aren't. Anyway, I just wanted to point them out, and I specifically wanted to take a second to talk about this one because I find it hilarious that Nier obviously knows what it looks like, and yet we still gave him this goofy look. I swear, he looks like the hamburger his son is. But anyway, I just wanted to call that out real quick. And with that being said, let's jump back into how to use it. First up, the death will not take effect if you write a specific victim's name using several different agents. So this one is weird. I get what it's saying, but it's just so interesting because I would never even think to do that. And
Not saying.
to be clear about what it means, it's saying that you can't write a person's name using a bunch of pages in a notebook. So if you were going to write down a name, say, I don't know, Nate River, just to make a totally random name, you couldn't write N-A on one page, T-E on another, R-I-V on the third, and then E-R on the last. Which, again, I would never even think to do something like that. Even if I did try, I
Oh my god, what the fuck?
Because it looks like we will not continue to perform, which bummer, honestly. But as far as what's going on, it looks like Whitner and Rester have come to wish to meet set and why? Well, it's not entirely clear right now, but it'll be explained in a little bit. So from there we actually switch back to Takagi as she addresses the crowd, letting them know that Lisa never been there. Which takes everyone back in task. As it should, because this was not something that needed to be warned them. Hell, at this point they don't even know that it is they only know that Eminem are Eminem. And there we actually switch scenes back to the movie as we see and Misa, well, she's not too happy about how things are playing out. Which is fair. They are actually fucking with her reputation right now because for all intents and purposes, it looks like she's bailed on what might be one of the biggest festivals of the year. So I'm not mad at her for making a stink about it. But regardless, they ain't going there, which Logan tries to explain to Misa, claiming that they've got to go with them and will be there. Rester then goes on to make it clear that if they had put up any sort of fight, he would have taken them at gunpoint, which is interesting, but more on that in a second. Now, after Rester says that, we hear Moki thinking to himself about how he probably would have fought back had it not been for Aizawa telling him about Takada and Light passing notes. Now, from there, we switch scenes again, and Light reach out to Mir to inform him of the situation, except Mir ends up saying,
What? Kidnapping is a global criminal act. I have to stop this now.
so real quick, I just want to take a second because it took me a second to figure out which team it was. But when I did, I realized just how fitting it was for this whole situation. Because, you see, at first I figured this was either a random team or one that was specifically tied to the president. But it's not. It's actually one of Mello's teams. And that's why I said it was so fitting because what the SPK is doing here is essentially going with Mello. They've basically kidnapped Misa and Loki.
Actually, Mr. Logan, gave your family.
What they I don't know if I necessarily Lisa was pretty adamant about not wanting it done. And given the fact that Rester said that he would have held them at gunpoint if they had put up a fight, I mean, willingly seems like a stretch to me. And you know what? Even now, Lisa's making it clear that she wasn't down with it.
He said that you both agreed to it. Is that true?
I was against the whole thing, but Loki said he would have both killed if I didn't.
So yeah, definitely not a consensual kidnapping, my guy. She just made it very clear that she was taken under duress. So given that fact, I'm sure the task force is going to be even more pissed at the SPK. So just go ahead and let them have it.
It's fine as long as you both consented to this.
Wait, I'm sorry, what? Did you not hear what she just said?
I was against the whole thing, but Loki said he would have both killed if I didn't.
What part of that sounds like she consented to this? Holy shit, Light. I know after so many years you probably would ask if you are like tuning her out, but fucking hell. Basically just said as much. And you know what? My issue isn't fully with just Light. Because why are the rest of y'all just cool with this? Like, why aren't y'all saying anything? It doesn't matter if Mogi's cool with it. Misa just made it clear that the only reason that she's here
Alright,
is
I'm gonna sign out
otherwise,
here.
which, yeah,
I gotta go get food and then back to volunteering. But
no, actually it isn't, because Rester deadass said he would have taken them at gunpoint. So it's not even that much of an exaggeration. So I just okay, just
Yeah.
don't think about it. I
have a
guess.
good one, guys.